NTV at 1. I am Julians, Amboko. Let's start with matters discussing the food basket. Farmers in Kinangop, Garissa County are incurring heavy losses daily as a result of the supply chain disruptions associated with the coronavirus pandemic. While Nyandarua accounts for a significant proportion of fresh farm produce consumed in Nairobi and its environs, much of their produce now goes to waste as most transporters have suspended operations as the government moves to implement a curfew in order to curb the spread of the deadly virus. The government has exempted transporters of food and fresh produce from the curfew, but a spot check by NTV in Jabini Township that's normally abuzz with activity at dusk, and as many trucks move to the night, painted a ghost town, with only police vehicles on patrol seen moving around.
Tunategemea watu wana lobby na kwa sababu hawakuji, viazi zinaharibika, minji zinaharibika, karoti zinaharibika.
Kulingana na venye maisha iko, maneno ya kupanda mboga imekuwa na gumu kutoka hii ugonjwa wa coronavirus ingie. Ndio maana hata zingine tumepatia ng'ombe mpaka zingine zimekata kukula. Sasa tunaomba serikali at least itufanyie uchunguzi venye hii maneno itaendelea mboga.
Uwaga tunafanya kazi ya kusafirisha chakula na tunapeleka saa nyingine tunakuta watu wamejifungia na chakula tunawapelekea. Sasa tunataka watu watokee tuwaduzie chakula na sisi tunarudi kwetu.
And moving on to matters still with the COVID-19 virus, with 2 persons testing positive for coronavirus at a quarantine facility in Garissa County, the governor there is now calling on the president to declare a nationwide lockdown. Rift Valley Regional Commissioner says the state has already identified more than 1 million people who will receive food aid from the government should the country go into full lockdown. Bridget Ngana has the details.
2 people at this quarantine facility here at the Kenya Industrial Training Institute have tested positive for coronavirus. The news has sent the leadership of the county into a frenzy as the government scrambles to prepare for a spike in infections now that the virus is spreading internally and fast.
Our plea to the national government is a lockdown is inevitable. We would rather have a lockdown now when our numbers are within the 100 or so digits than when we are 10,000. So why have half measure when you can go the full hog?
The Rift Valley region has more than 600 beds in the isolation facilities at hospitals, but the need is greater.
So you can imagine 620 beds capacity in a serve watu almost 15 million, a third of Kenya. We're not itoshi hata kidogo. And that's why it's important tumekuwa tunasema ya kwamba to prevent Wakenya wafuate hizi instructions ambazo serikali inasema to prevent tusiambukizwe na ugonjwa.
The government is also preparing to assist the vulnerable in desperate need of food.
Unajua tukifika that stage kutakuwa na watu ambao labda itabidi wasaidiwe na chakula, wasaidiwe na maji, especially ambao kwa informal settlements. Hizo zote tumemap na katika region ya Rift Valley tuko na watu karibu 1,20,000 wale ambao watahitaji msaada kabisa mpaka wa chakula.
People traveling across the Rift Valley are now being screened as the state gears towards a total ban on travel.
Kuzuia movement totally. Na wasipo behave waje ile wanaruka sasa bado wanazuiliwa. Wasipo behave tuende kwa lockdown. Hakuna hata mbu atapatikana kwa barabara.
In terms of preparedness, Garissa County now has a 50-bed isolation capacity for COVID-19 patients, 7 ICU beds and 12 ventilators. Bridget Ngana, NTV, Nakuru.
And many thanks, Bridget, for that report. And staying with the subject of COVID-19, Kenyans currently in quarantine at a Kenya Medical Training College in Nairobi are protesting what they term as unfair treatment by health officials. They are complaining of poor living conditions at the facility and lack of testing and proper communication. Our reporter Leila Mohammed is near the facility and brings us the latest. Leila, what can you tell us from that end?
Well, Amboko, I'm looking at the latest communication by government, and this is a letter from Dr. Patrick Amoth to all the directors of the heads of quarantine areas, and he is saying that they will be extending the period of quarantine for another 14 days. This is because some of those people who are in quarantine have been found to be positive of the COVID-19 disease. Now, some of the concerns raised here at the KMTC is that first batch came in on Tuesday last week, and they say the numbers came in afterwards, and since then they are not sure whether sanitization or the staying away from each other has been made as some of the priorities here. They are saying the facilities in terms of where they are eating, how they are sleeping, where they are taking a bath, they are saying that these facilities are not up to standard in terms of they are afraid for themselves. We've not been able to speak to them for obvious reasons, and they say they are yet to be tested. This up until now, remember yesterday the CS for Health was talking about the issue of urging those facilities that are currently holding Kenyans or people from other parts of the world who came in before the Wednesday deadline, that there needs to be social distancing as an effort to ensure that the further spread of COVID-19 doesn't rise. So those are some of the issues we are looking at the moment. Being a Saturday, there is no senior official, and those are some of the concerns. They're saying even the management of the facility has not come out clearly to give them the details or to explain to them how this process is going to get through. But those are some of the questions we will be asking in our subsequent bulletins.
And that's Leila Mohammed at a facility near KMTC, and we'll definitely be keeping tabs on that story to give you the latest update as and when it develops. Moving on, the Garissa County COVID-19 Emergency Committee has heightened the level of preparedness. The committee has embarked on fumigation exercise and upgrading of treatment facilities.
Garissa residents have been urged to ensure they observe social distancing by avoiding gatherings in a bid to reduce the spread of COVID-19. However, there are concerns regarding the sale of miraa, which was banned in the area.
And we say that categorically, whether miraa in bulk or whether in small amounts, we have completely banned miraa in our area. We are aware that some other areas like beyond the border, like Madogo, we have a problem. We are addressing that problem. We know there are panya routes that are bringing in miraa to Garissa. We are not going to allow that.
Generally, the residents have been adhering to the night curfews.
We want to ensure that the social distance, we want to ensure that those areas that people are congested, we make sure that they don't spread the disease, because we want to adhere to the regulations about prevention.
And we urge the residents of this town, and actually the county at large, to be careful on whom they meet, whom they socialize.
The county government of Garissa has prepared isolation wards and treatment facilities. The county government says it has 6 ICU beds and 10 ventilators at the Garissa Referral Hospital.
We even set aside the ambulances which are ready in the event of such cases reported. So generally we can say, we can report to some extent we are prepared to handle COVID-19.
The county health officials have also started fumigating the marketplaces and training health workers. Salah Mohammed, NTV, Garissa.
And staying with the county, Wajir residents say working during the daytime is extremely difficult due to the scorching sun, which they say rises to as high as 39 degrees Celsius. Residents there say that nighttime curfew has interrupted their daily routine, as NTV's Nurdin Elmoge now reports.
Sunset in Wajir, like in most parts of Kenya, signals the beginning of a rush to beat the 7 p.m. curfew deadline. Shops and hotels close earlier, while boda and taxi operators make quick cash from the desperate effort by residents to get home on time. The curfew and the ensuing security operations is something most of the people here are familiar with.
Ninaona watu wanateseka na serikali hawaangalii hiyo, wanaangalia tu coronavirus. Na antivirus hawaoni inaua watu. Antivirus ina itasuiliwa na nini?
Kabio iwekwe usiku, unauliza sasa usiku ndio hiyo ugonjwa inakuja ama haikuji mchana, usiku ndio inakuja ama ni nini? Sasa tunaambiwa tusifanye kazi usiku. Watu wameambiwa tena wasikaribiane, waachane mita moja, kwani bonda iko na mita ngapi?
The challenge here is the weather. Due to the scorching sun, most of the people utilize the cool early morning and late evening hours.
You see, people who are transacting business at the night time is impossible, as you can see. At 6 people are running away. Therefore, businesses are shut down, and this will bring down the economy of Kenya.
Wajir has also been hit by a series of power outages, which makes stay-at-home campaign even harder.
Watu wanagaa giza, umewahi kuona askari anatembea giza? Baadaye kivyomiwa askari anasema ameombewa kafyo. Askari asifamiwe, ni giza, Wajir County kuna stima. Mimi nilikuwa naomba Mheshimiwa Uhuru mambo ya kafyo ufanye mchana. Kwa hivyo usiku Wajir kuna stima. Sisi Wajir County hatuwahi kuona stima.
Maneno ya Uhuru vile alisema kafyo nakubali. Lakini light iachiliwe usiku yote. Tunaweza kukaa kwa nyumba, bila light hatuwezi kukaa kwa nyumba.
Nurdin Almoge, NTV, Wajir County.
And the Kenya Pipeline Company says it will ensure it supplies the country with 20,000 litres of hand sanitizer weekly. According to the board chairman, John Gumi, KPC has already produced free hand sanitizers from 185,000 litres of ethanol blended out of the initial 600,000 litres availed to it by different state agencies. The sanitizers have also been dispatched to various counties through offices of the county commissioners and the Council of Governors. KPC says it will use its vast networks and has already allocated resources, including personnel and infrastructure nationwide as needed, to focus on this efforts. The Free Sanitizers initiative is part of the government's effort to curb the spread of COVID-19. Companies that have joined the initiative include Vivo Energy, Total Kenya, Pwani Oil, among others.
We will produce enough. We are working for all Kenyans. We are working closely with the county governments. We are working closely with the Council of Governors. You will have read 2 days ago we committed to give the Council of Governors 20,000 litres a week for the foreseeable future to be able to distribute to counties, and they have come up with their own formula of priority, how they will distribute those.
And on that note, we take a break. We'll be back with more stories.
Parenting is all about learning when to be tough and when to be gentle. Tough, gentle. But when it comes to fever, you need to be both. Panadol Baby and Infant starts to work on fever in 15 minutes and is gentle on the tummy. Tough call. Panadol Baby and Infant. Tough on fever, gentle on your child.
Working from home? No problem. Fiber Home has you covered with the fastest and most reliable internet speeds. Get connected today. Kazi lazima iendelee.
Molfix breathable surface developed with Airsoft technology is very soft and provides the best Molfix skincare.
I found the best diaper for my baby's sensitive skin.
All babies deserve a high-quality diaper. You should also try Molfix.
We encourage our students and counterparts from both tertiary and higher learning institutions to become advocates for coronavirus prevention and control at home and in their communities. We appeal to you to share and practice safe hygiene to curb the spread of the coronavirus. Remember to wash your hands, sanitize, and keep social distance as per government directives. This message was brought to you by the BOG Rift Valley Institute of Science and Technology. Arvist, technology for industrialization.
I help women find independence by training them in fish farming. It's tough on my back, joints, and can cause headaches. Panadol Extra relieves multiple types of pain. Panadol Extra, now with new Optizorb technology to fight multiple tough pains with 3 times more pain-relieving medicine in the first 30 minutes when you need it most. Seeing them support themselves makes any pain worth it. If symptoms persist, seek medical advice.
Welcome back to NTV at 1. Meru County Governor Kiraito Murungi is calling on traders in the county markets to be extra vigilant as coronavirus cases now intensify. Speaking as he led a fumigation exercise at Kireine Market in Central Imenti, Governor Kiraito raised concerns over how people related during these tough times in the country, and those in the villages were now not spared. Governor Kiraito has launched a market-to-market fumigation exercise and set up washing points in an effort to increase hygiene standards. He has also cautioned against unnecessary movement, be it within the county or from people in urban areas, arguing that it is one of the ways of keeping the virus at bay. The exercise will go on in all markets regularly to ensure traders work in clean environment as well as implement the social distancing rule. And away from Meru County, as the spread of the coronavirus disease of 2019 triggers adverse economic conditions across the globe, the International Monetary Fund now warns that the world finds itself in a worse economic downturn than the one faced a decade ago during the global recession. Speaking during a joint press briefing between the fund and the World Health Organization, IMF's managing director said the spread of COVID-19 has pushed the global economy into a recession, with 85 countries now in need of emergency assistance from the fund. On March 4, 2020, the IMF fund availed $50 billion to help mitigate the adverse effects of the spread of the virus. And still further afield, the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres has renewed his call for a global ceasefire, urging all parties in conflict to lay down arms and allow war-torn nations to combat the coronavirus pandemic, insisting that the worst is yet to come. On Thursday, the UN General Assembly adopted a resolution calling for international cooperation and multilateralism in addressing the virus, which has infected more than 1 million people worldwide and killed more than 50,000.
And in many of the most critical situations, we have seen no let-up in fighting, and some conflicts have even intensified. We need robust diplomatic efforts to meet these challenges. To silence the guns, we must raise the voices for peace. I call on all those that can make a difference to make that difference, to urge and pressure combatants around the world to put down their arms. There is a chance for peace, but we are far from there. And the need is urgent. The COVID-19 storm is now coming to all these theaters of conflict. The virus has shown how swiftly it can move across borders, devastate countries, and upend lives. The worst is yet to come.
And still on matters further afield, WHO Director General Tedros Adhanom says that countries should try to ease the burden on their populations by removing financial barriers to care in the response of the coronavirus pandemic. He also says that 1 million confirmed cases of COVID-19 have now been reported to the WHO, including more than 50,000 deaths.
The discovery in a county in Henan province that borders Wuhan has further raised fears of a second wave of infections inside China. Meanwhile, residents of Wuhan have been warned to stay indoors and strengthen protection measures a few days before travel restrictions on the city at the center of the pandemic are scheduled to be lifted. At least 1,035,386 cases of infections, including 53,693 deaths, have been reported in 188 countries and territories around the world since the pandemic started in December.
We call on all countries to remove financial barriers to care. If people delay or forego care because they can't afford it, they not only harm themselves, they make the pandemic harder to control.
Italy has the highest official death toll with 13,915 fatalities. Spain follows with 10,935, the United States with 6,058, and France with 5,387. The pandemic could cost the global economy $4.1 trillion as it ravages the United States, Europe, and other major economies.
We know that this is much more than a health crisis. We're all aware of the profound social and economic consequences of the pandemic. The restrictions many countries have put in place to protect health are taking a heavy toll on the income of individuals and families.
The estimated impact is equivalent to 4.8% of worldwide output based on a range of scenarios, but the Landa says losses from the worst pandemic in a century could be higher. More than 3.9 billion people, half of the world's population, have been called on or obliged by the authorities to stay home in more than 90 countries or territories.
Government should also consider using cash transfers to the most vulnerable households to overcome barriers to access. This may be particularly important for refugees, internally displaced persons, migrants, and the homeless.
Kenya has just finished its 7th night of curfew, with the authorities warning of stricter measures if the numbers continue to soar in the coming few weeks. At the same time, Google says it will publish users' locations.
Nilikuwa huko, kwa shule mimi nilijaribu sana kusoma hiyo design na nikaweza kufaulu.
Eager to earn more money of his cause, he went back to his rural home and where he has worked consistently for 3 years. Back in the day, he says it was very difficult to get necessary materials as the leather industry was not well developed. But now, with improving technology, the situation has changed. He can make up to 2 pairs of shoes in a single day, depending on the shoe design.
Unajua sasa sisi watu walemavu kazi tunaona ikiwa tatizo, lakini japokuwa hii yangu haina tatizo kwa sababu nilijamulia kwa roho yangu na mimi mwenyewe.
On a good day, he earns 3,000 shillings, but when business is low, he makes 1,000 shillings.
Ningesema sisi walemavu tuko na challenge kubwa sana. Mimi hata nilikuwa ninaomba Mungu nikiweza kufaulu kwa hii kazi, walemavu kwanza, wale wanaenda huko wakiomba huko barabara kwanza, unajua ni wenzangu, nitaweza kuwaita wakuje niwafunze kazi hii.
Kosen's main challenge is his inability to quickly move around his workshop, and that's because he does not have a wheelchair. He gets by on a stick that helps him do all his activities.
Tami sometimes huwa nakapa nafanya repair, na sichagui kazi, na siangalii urembo ama siangalii anything. nakuja na shona viatu na customer anaenda nayo, maybe hatukuwa na something ya kukula na tunapata.
During his free time, he plays guitar, especially in the evening, so as to relax his mind. Halima Gongo, NTV.
Quite an uplifting story there. Moving on, financial services company Britam Holdings has clawed back from a loss position to register a 3.5 billion shillings net profit in the 12 months ended December 2019. The company's return to profit position was enabled by a 4.8 billion shillings gain on financial assets in 2019, even as revenue earned grew by 8.8% to stand at 23.6 billion shillings. In the period under review, the company's expense rose by 12% to stand at 31.8 billion shillings. Britam's share price closed Friday's trade at 6 shillings and 96 cents, down 22% since the start of 2020. The company's board of directors has recommended a dividend payment of 25 cents per share. Friday would traditionally be a market day in many parts of the country, but as the coronavirus continues to spread, county governments have had to shut down these markets as a measure to stop the crowding. Migori County is among those that have shut down their markets, but yesterday, traders and the residents have defied the closure of orders and turned up in markets in Awendo to do business. County officers even showed up to collect revenue, forcing police to intervene. Bernard Otieno reports.
This is Awendo Market. Friday is ordinarily a market day here. Just recently, Migori County Governor Zachary Koth Obado ordered the closure of all the markets in the county as a way of curbing the spread of the virus. But the situation here is totally different. Traders came very early in the morning and business was as usual. What devastated people most was the presence of county government officials in their uniforms interacting freely and collecting tax from traders against the directive that was given by the county boss as one of the ways of curbing the spread of coronavirus.
Ushuru inachukulia kama kawaida. Soko inaendelea juu kuna njaa. Sasa kila mtu anatafuta mbinu ya kutafuta kitu aende akule nyumbani.
Tunataka pesa, tununue chakula, tuweke kwa nyumba, ndio tukae kwa nyumba. Tuwezi kaa kwa nyumba bila chakula.
Kama watu wa mkokoteni, lazima tutafute mulo kwa sababu tusipofanya kazi hatutapata chakula na inamaanisha tutaanza uizi.
We ruled it that there was going to be no open market. We banned all the markets. And we were shocked to see that markets were going on as usual in the morning.
Here, it is evident that even though the government through the Ministry of Health continues to put up measures to contain the spread of COVID-19 countrywide, Awendo residents and traders seems unbothered about the virus that has claimed thousands of lives globally and 4 people locally. At the market, they were interacting, exchanging money and shaking hands.
Tunataka support. Tukipata support, tutakaa kwa nyumba.
Eventually, police stepped in and forcefully cleared the market. For the better part of the morning, it was running battles. The market was eventually cleared and closed again. But the traders vowed to return next Friday.
Tunaiogopa tu kwa sababu inaua, lakini hatuwezi kukaa kwa nyumba kwa sababu ya corona. Watoto watakula nini?
We have followed the government directive. It's only what happened today that was unfortunate. But we have put mechanism on the ground so that the officers are on check 24/7.
Bernard Ojuang, NTV.
Many thanks, Bernard, for that story. Elsewhere, countries are now turning to technology in the heightened war against the coronavirus pandemic. In Lombardy, Italy, robots are replacing doctors and nurses in some duties in the
On Wednesday, more than a third of all global fatalities. In Tunisia, police there are using a remote-controlled Robocop to patrol the streets of the capital Tunis and enforce a lockdown imposed last month as the country battles the spread of the coronavirus. Tunisia has registered 455 COVID-19 cases and 14 deaths from the respiratory disease. Known as the P-Guard, the Robocop is remotely operated and equipped with infrared and thermal imaging cameras in addition to a sound and light alarm system. Tunisia has been under nighttime curfew since March 17th, and the authorities imposed stricter lockdown orders from March 22nd. The robot, built by Savani Nova's robotic farm, costs between $100,000 and $140,000 and has been selling mostly overseas to companies for security uses. The Robocop deployed in Tunis has been a hit on social media, with users posting footage of the machine in action in several parts of the capital. It can be heard voicing pre-recorded messages calling on citizens to respect the law and stay at home to limit the spread of the virus and safeguard human lives. Meanwhile, the Indonesian Air Force has deployed paramotos in Pekanbaru in Sumatra to raise coronavirus awareness and encourage people to stay at home during this COVID-19 pandemic.
Quite some innovation on that front. And back locally into some sporting action, but still touching on COVID-19, the WRC Safari Rally, which was to return to Kenya for the first time after 18 years, may be postponed due to the COVID-19 pandemic, according to Sports CS Ambassador Amina Mohamed. The rally was to take place between the 16th and 19th of July this year.
Bado tunaendelea kujadiliana ili wakati itapoahirishwa tutakuwa na dates mpya, tutakuwa na tarehe mpya ya kufanya safari rally. Lakini nafikiria ya kwamba sisi wote tumekubali sasa ya kwamba itaahirishwa, na tunatumaini itaahirishwa kwa muda mfupi tu, sio muda mrefu. Lakini pia kule tunaendelea na mipango, tunatengeneza service park, tunatengeneza zile facilities zote ambazo zinahitajika kwa safari rally.
And still on the sporting beat, Bundesliga champions Bayern Munich players took part in a cyber training session in coronavirus lockdown, where they were joined by former teammate Arjen Robben. Those who joined Robben, who was a special guest, were Serge Gnabry, Jerome Boateng, Manuel Neuer and Thomas Müller. Meanwhile, Bayern Munich head coach Hansi Flick has agreed to a new contract until June 2023. The 55-year-old joined the club at the start of the season as Niko Kovac's assistant. He became interim boss when Kovac was sacked on 3rd November 2019 and subsequently earned a deal until the end of the season. Flick has won 18 of his 21 matches in charge. And that takes us to the end of NTV at 1. We will be bringing you more updates in our subsequent bulletins.